Sports Radio 92.9 The Game. Tonight, we have a rare opportunity to sit down with the legend in an intimate setting to talk about his career, the state of the NBA, and get his thoughts on the upcoming Hawks season.
He loops it underneath for Dominique. He gets it, lays it up and in. Dominique from Hastings. He laid it in with 2 seconds left.
This is Harrah's Cherokee Dinner with Dominique, live from Shula's 347 Grill in Buckhead on Sports Radio 92.9 The Game.
All right, thanks, Big Voice Guy. Here we are, the Dinner with Dominique. You've been hearing about it for weeks, and it's finally here. We have local icon, Hall of Famer, the legendary Dominique Wilkins. Nick, I'm flattered to be a part of this. We've worked together at NBA TV and gotten to know each other just a little bit. But this is going to be an exceptional night. I'm really excited to be here with you. So here we go. Let's let her rip.
Hey, let's go. I'm looking forward to having a little fun, and guys, don't be shy.
So we're going to be hearing from our great crowd here at Shula's 347 Grill throughout the broadcast. We're on here for a couple of hours. And, Nick, first of all, congratulations on the new title with the Atlanta Hawks, Special Advisor to CEO Steve Koonin. Congratulations on that. How does that feel? What does that mean to you?
It hadn't set in yet, but it feels great. I think David Lee and Steve Koonin has done a great job. It's kind of redirecting what we're trying to do with the Hawks and going in a much positive direction and add more fun to the game. And that's what it's about for everyone, not just the players, but everyone in the city to enjoy our brand. And that's the most important thing to me is making sure that we represent our brand the right way.
How do you go about adding more fun to the game as an ownership or at least front office group with the Hawks?
Well, with things that Steve is doing is really putting a lot of in-game experience into the building, spent a lot of money really trying to bring back the history of our franchise and letting it be displayed in a dramatic way. So we've done a lot of fun stuff, and I can't spill the beans on everything. So some of this has got to be a surprise.
So there's some stuff behind the curtain.
Oh, yeah, no question about it. And everybody in that front office is working diligently to, kind of move things in a positive direction. But, again, it's the leadership of Steve, which we haven't had in a very long time. So to have someone to come in with direction and focus and put us in the right direction, that's what we've been needed for so long.
Nick, does the new title of Special Advisor to the CEO change your day-to-day duties with the Hawks at all?
It changes a lot of things. It changes a lot of things because we're going to be working closely together. And like I said, I mentioned David Lee a few minutes ago. All of us are going to be working together on the business side of things as well as the business of basketball. So just to engage the political leaders around town, the business leaders. So trying to get everybody involved in what we're trying to accomplish here and just get to the ultimate goal is winning.
Well, it appears to be the year of Dominique Wilkins. You've gotten this promotion with the Hawks. And have you heard about the statue that they're going to be unveiling outside of Phillips Arena on March 5th of 2015? So kind of late in this upcoming regular season, you will get a statue joining some unbelievably legendary sporting figures around the country that have a statue that will be remembered forever. What does that mean to you?
It's really hard to put in words because that kind of immortalizes you. And that's something that no one could ever take from you. There's only 7 other NBA statues that's in existence right now, and to be among those guys is just a real feeling. So, yeah, I don't know how I'm going to feel once I see it, but, I know it's coming. But when you're actually standing out in front of Phillips Arena and you see that statue sitting there, that's kind of a great feeling. It's going to be a pretty large statue.
Yeah, no question about it. And 7 guys around NBA arenas have statues.
Yes.
It seems like there should be more because you've got guys who are retired and, okay, their numbers are up in the rafters, but then you've got some guys that separate from that and become identifiable with the franchise, like a Reggie Miller with the Indiana Pacers, like you with the Atlanta Hawks. Are you surprised that number's so little?
Not really, because, you have the elite of the elite guys who have a statue. And to be recognized as one of those elite of the elite players, it shows what you've done over your career. It shows the appreciation of the organization, of people who support you most of your career. And, quite frankly, the fans are the most important part of this because they made me who I am today.
A conversation with Dominique Wilkins here at Shula's 347 Grill in Buckhead, live on Sports Radio 92.9 The Game. We've got a great live audience here. Of course, everybody listening around Atlanta and beyond here on Sports Radio 92.9 The Game. It's brought to you by Harrah's Cherokee Casino Resort, just about 3 hours away from here in North Carolina. We appreciate their sponsorship of this amazing event. Have you pondered the emotions that are going to be going through you at the unveiling of your statue? And have you started to get your arms around your feelings and your thoughts that are going to be going into that event?
I think about it every day, since the announcement of it. It's a lot of things, like you said, is happening this year. Just the last couple of days, I've been shooting my 30 for 30 lifetime story. And so it's like everything came all at once. So everything is kind of happening at the same time. So to have the 30 for 30 and the statue unveilment around the same time is going to be a special moment.
Is it a coincidence that it's all kind of happening at the same time? And as I said, this kind of feels like the year of Dominique. Is it coincidence, or is there something else going on here?
Well, some of it is. Some of it is. But, again, it's people who are very important in my life, and also people who appreciate what I've done, who's all come together and decided, hey, it's time for the statue to be done. So it's been a quite a long wait, but anything worth having is worth waiting for. So I'm excited about that.
Dominique, did you see the tweets that Magic Johnson sent out regarding his meeting, his conversation with Danny Ferry, and his advice to CEO Steve Koonin about his thoughts about a role that you should have with the Atlanta Hawks? Did you see those tweets, and how did that grab you?
Well, yeah, I saw those tweets. And, Magic and I go back 30-plus years. And to have that kind of comment come out about where my statue should be, in sports, it's a big compliment, because he know what I brought to the table. You look at my peers during that time, they knew what I brought to the table. And they knew that every night out that they would have to contend with that. And so, and vice versa, because that era of basketball was, in my opinion, never be duplicated. It was the greatest player to ever play at one time. On just about every team was in that one era. So if I had to do it over again, I wouldn't change a thing.
Now, you say that, what you brought to the game. Were your opponents more afraid of your incredible talent, your incredible athleticism, or, Dominique, that gigantic barking dog that lies between?
Probably a little of everything. And because, this is, as a great player, as great scorers, we had a mentality of attack that you just don't see. And it's that dog mentality that we talk about. And when you see highlights of me, what is the first thing you see? You see the slam dunks, the high wire acts, all that stuff. And I tell people all the time, I said, it is very hard to score over 26,000 points on dunks. I did more than just dunk. I only really averaged 2 or 3 dunks a game. But dunking was a tool for intimidation I used to back big guys up. And my feeling was if you got in the way, I was going to try to break your arm. And so that was my mentality. And that was most great players. Michael Jordan would tell you the same thing. That was out because you always had to create an edge, and you had those fierce rivalries between the players. There's players today I still don't like. I won't even shake their hand. That's because, again, we didn't come to play to like each other. We came to compete. And there's certain guys, after all those years, I finally start speaking to. I'll give you a prime example. Karl Malone and I knowing each other over 27 years. We never spoke, never shook hands. It wasn't until this year at the All-Star Weekend we actually sat down and talked over dinner and finally broke the ice. It's the only time we ever spoke, and we've been best friends ever since.
So all those years go by. There wasn't even any trash talking on the court or anything like that, or was there?
There was some trash talking. There was a whole lot of trash talking. But only guys that talk trash to you are the guys who could back it up. And guys who couldn't back it up didn't talk trash. I used to tell my brother Gerald, who talked a lot of trash, I said, you got to be very careful who you talk trash to. I said, Michael Jordan is one of the guys you might not want to talk trash to, but Gerald was a very gritty player, and he didn't care. But he got embarrassed quite a few times because of that trash talking.
So who was – obviously you're not going to admit, even if it happened, to getting rattled by somebody who trash talked to you, but was there anybody who you could give credit to for trash talking effectively?
There's a couple guys. I tell you, my brother was one of them. And I remember playing against my brother his first year in the league, and he said to me, he said, Big Brother, you ain't scoring no more tonight. And I looked at him, I was like, that's a nice thought. But I'm getting 40 tonight. And so he was one of the guys, him, Chuck Person, who I don't like at all.
Like to this day?
No, I don't like him at all.
So you can't hang with the rifleman?
No.
There's no mending of fences. There's no kissing and making up with the rifleman?
No, not at all. Scottie Pippen is another guy I don't like.
Really?
And I don't know why I don't like him. That's just, I don't know why I don't like Scottie. He didn't do anything wrong. Maybe because he played with Michael. Maybe,
is it the jewelry?
I just think, you know what? I know what it is. Let me back up. We were playing one game, I think in his second year in the league, and he said, you better watch it, old man. You might get broke up coming to the basket like that. I was like, excuse me? Well, I had 57 that night.
Are you kidding me? So
I take a challenge of people who talk trash.
So you already had 20,000 points at this point, right?
Close.
I mean, you were on your way to the Hall of Fame. Pip was in year 2?
I think he was in year 2, yes.
And you had how many points against him?
57.
And you're talking, Scottie Pippen's one of the best two-way players in NBA history.
Yes, he is.
Would you give him that credit?
Oh, yeah, no question. He's a great defender, but I tell people all the time, a great scorer, one guy can't stop you. I don't care how good a defender he is. I never worry about the guy who was guarding me. I worried about the guy who was double and triple teaming.
Well, I can't wait for the next couple of segments. We're going to talk dunk contests with Dominique. We're going to talk just dunking in general, like your favorite dunk, who you wanted to dunk on, why modern superstars seem to duck the dunk contest. It's all coming up here on The Dinner with Dominique. Rick Kamla here with Dominique Wilkins at Shula's 347 Grill in Buckhead with an awesome live crowd. Glad to have you guys listening around Georgia and beyond on Sports Radio 92.9 The Game.
And Atlanta very efficiently playing keep away, and there's Wilkins. Anybody that takes it in on David Robinson that way deserves special recognition. Not many would even try it, much less do it. And he did it.
Now back to Harrah's Cherokee, Dinner with Dominique. Live at Shula's 347 Grill in Buckhead on Sports Radio 92.9 The Game.
And we're back talking dunks. Rick Kamla and Dominique Wilkins. You hear the crowd here at Shula's 347 Grill in Buckhead. Happy to have everybody listening all around the airwaves on 92.9 The Game. So, Dominique, you won a couple of dunk contests back in 1985 in Indianapolis. You took home that one. Then again in 1990 in Miami, you won the Slam Dunk Championship. Let's talk about these individually. Let's go back to 85. What did it mean to you at the time? The dunk contest back then wasn't what it is now, but what did that mean to you in 85 to hold that trophy?
Well, first of all, I won 4. I just got credit for 2. It happens. But, the first dunk contest I was in, it was Dr. J, Larry Nance, and Edgar Jones, and Darnell, I think it was Duncanstein with Darrell Griffith. And I was just in awe of Dr. J. So I didn't really do that well in that dunk contest. So I said to myself, next year I'm going to win it. And so I prepared myself, got focused, and I came out and won it pretty easily. That was a great dunk contest. Of course, the second one,
hold on a second.
The third one. Actually, it was the third one.
What did you learn from the first one when you were in awe of Dr. J that allowed you to come back the next year and get that one?
Well, I got over being really just blown away by Dr. J because Dr. J was my idol, and still is to this day. And so once I got over the really excitement of playing against Dr. J, being on the same floor with Dr. J, I was okay, now it's time to compete and try to go at him a little bit. But he was the grandfather of us all. Everything that we did, he started. So I just kind of carried that torch after that contest. So going into that third contest, I felt pretty confident. But I think I lost that one. Pretty sure I lost that one.
Do you practice the dunks, or do you just get out there in front of the crowd and freelance and let the vibe get into you and just do it, based on spontaneity and creativity at that point?
I never worked on dunks, practicing. And Dwayne Ferrer, who's out here right now, he'll tell you he played behind me when I was here and we played together. He would tell you I've never worked on dunks. I just thought about it as the contest went on. Like some of the dunks, the windmill, the ones off the glass, I thought about that at the contest.
Now, had you done them before and not choreographed it, or were those some of the first times you ever did those dunks?
Some of them were the first time. The other ones that I did in practice, or I did in most of the dunks I did in a game. Because in practice, I didn't try to dunk like that in practice. Only in games. The only reason why I did it in games to kind of elude the contact. And because I tell people all the time, I used to be a 1-footed jumper. But I became a 2-footed jumper by accident because I jumped in the air and Bob Lanier covered the rim. I remember he covered the rim, and I think I closed my eyes, and I turned around all the way around and came back, and he was going down, and I was still going up. and I was able to take the contact and finish the play. So that's when I started jumping off of 2 feet.
So that taught you to jump from 2 feet to put a Hall of Famer like Bob Lanier in the hoop.
You know what? Because you have more control. You can get hit, fouled, and still finish the play. And after that dunk, Bob Lanier didn't speak to me for 9 years until after I retired. And I was like, why are you speaking to me now? He said, I didn't like you. He said, when my daughters I go home and they said that, why did you let that little skinny kid, Dominique Wilkins, dunk on you like that? He said, I didn't want to hear that from my kids. So, yeah, I hated you until now. He said, we no longer play, so we can work together now.
And, I mean, Bob, even when he was disliking you for getting dunked on, one of the great guys in the NBA, yes, off the court, but yes, he held that grudge against you, Dominique.
Well, big guys in those days held grudges against guys who dunked on them. I remember Spud Webb, his first year in the league, he dunked on Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and Kareem stopped in the middle of the paint and watched Spud all the way down the court and put his hands on his hip like he was going to shoot him. And he hated Spud for that. You just didn't do that on big guys. So you see this stuff the guys do, banging the chest, flipping the jerseys, the powder and all that. Couldn't do that. Couldn't do that in the era. We would send a guy in the game who never play. $200, take a hard foul. Now, what they call it now? Head hunting or
a bounty.
Yeah. There wasn't no bounties back then.
Yeah, it'll get your coach suspended for an entire year. Just ask Sean Payton down there in New Orleans.
It wasn't no bounties back then. I'm going to tell you something. I got to tell you this. Dwayne Farrell, when he first came in the league, he's coming out of Georgia Tech. He's trying to make our team.
He's shaking his head because he knows the story's coming.
I tell Dwayne, I said, look, the way you make this team, you got to kick my butt every day in practice, man. You got to make me work. He took it literally. I said, look, I didn't mean kill me. I just mean work hard and you're going to play. But I'm going to tell you, he was the best backup I ever had. Because I used to tell Dwayne, go in there and tenderize him, soften him up, and I'll come back in the game. I'll finish him off. And he did, believe me. So he was a great guy to play with.
So we're talking with Dominique Wilkins here at Shula's 347 Grill in Buckhead. Rick Hamler here as well on Sports Radio 92.9. The Game. We got a great crowd down here in Buckhead. Enjoy you guys listening around Georgia and beyond here. Rick Hamler and Dominique Wilkins. So in that 85 dunk contest, when you won it first in Indianapolis, does a dunk from that contest stick out for you? Where you were like, yep, I want to hang my hat on that one. That's a famous dunk. I love that dunk.
Well, it was the windmill dunk. I mean, it was different variations of that dunk that I did. But that was the one that was the keeper when it looked like it was close, that was always one that could pull you out.
You knew it was going to be a 50.
Yeah, I mean, the year I lost, I saved my best for last. And I got 50 on the 2 previous dunks, but my best dunk was my last dunk, and I got a 47. I looked up and I okay, fixes in. I knew it was coming, But the great thing about the dunk contest with Michael and I is that we didn't do it for us. We did it for the fans. The dunk contest was the signature event at the All-Star Weekend, and Mike brought the best out of you. And if you wasn't ready to compete against Mike, well, you got very embarrassed. But I remember after he won the contest, he said to me after, he said, hey, Nick, look, you won, I know you won, but you're in Chicago. What can I tell you?
Wow, there it is. I was going to ask.
But I'm going to tell you what I said to him. I said, well, they're giving us $100,000 for winning. You give me the $100,000, we call it even.
Did he?
He didn't think I won that much.
So I was going to ask you about that. 1988 in Chicago, a legendary dunking showdown between you and Michael Jordan. And I told you the story off the air. I'm just a teenager in Minneapolis. I don't have a horse in the race. We didn't even have a team up in Minnesota at the time. The Timberwolves hadn't come into an existence yet. I'm watching that dunk contest and marveling at it, and I'm thinking, Dominique Wilkins won that dunk contest. This is garbage. This is BS. How does Michael Jordan get the trophy?
But you know something, though. Michael, who I have a lot of respect for, I don't look down on that contest, and I don't have any ill feelings about that because it could have went either way. And you had 2 of the greats going at it, and we set the bar high. Probably why a lot of guys don't get in the dunk contest anymore. All the best athletes don't get in it anymore because we set the bar so high.
Wait a second. Wait a second.
I mean,
I'm figuring stuff out here. So you're telling me that you guys dunked so viciously and so entertainingly back in the day that the LeBron James of today's game are like, yo, man. So they're not worried about competing and losing with players of their era. They're worried about being stacked up against Neek and Jordan and Larry Nance and all these guys.
You said it. I didn't. But, But you know what? Honestly speaking, though, when you set the bar that high, sometimes people don't want to. They think it takes too much out of them to reach that bar. But I think, honestly, the guys really don't want to know who the best is. We compete. I did.
Whoa! What do you mean the guys don't want to know?
5 times I competed. I just think guys are afraid to say, you know what, LeBron beat you or Carmelo beat you. You lost to this guy or that guy because their brands are so big now. So they don't want to. It's like it messes with my legacy. Well, your legacies are not built until after you're gone.
Come on,
so, but that's what it is.
Melo's a scoring champion. LeBron is a 4-time MVP
I'm just
and a 2-time champ.
I'm giving you an example of not necessarily Carmelo, but a great athlete who's going against another great athlete. I'll give you a prime example. At the small forward position, we didn't guard the power forward or the 2 guard. You played the guy who's going to play you. And if I had to play against Dr. J, I got to guard Dr. J. And my first 8 games, I played against 8 Hall of Famers, my first 8 games as a rookie. So you couldn't hide. And that was the difference. We competed on a different level.
Mike, do you have a question from one of our audience members? Does anybody want to step up and ask Dominique a question here at Shula's 347 Grill in Buckhead? Yes, I'm querying Neek, and we're having a great conversation, but we'd love you guys to get involved as well. Sir?
I grew up with you and coming, in Georgia, and we were sitting around watching it, and I graduated in '86. But I remember the one thing that always stood out is how you had your injury. You tore your ACL, and I thought, in the back of my mind as a Hawks fan, it was after I thought you were probably done.
Yeah, that was my Achilles tendon, actually.
Yeah, your Achilles. Yeah, we had the blowout, and then you came back, and I think you had the best year of your career, or one of the best years of your career.
It's
next
funny.
year.
It's funny because I think I was 32 at the time, and all the critics. Because back then, if you get an Achilles tendon tear, pretty much your career was over, and all the critics said he's done. He won't be back. And I remember telling someone, I said, not only am I coming back, I'm going to be better than ever. And he patted me on the back, one of those sarcastic pats, and he said, good luck. But I was determined. I practiced and worked out twice a day, every day for 9 months. And not only did I come back, I came back and averaged right at 30 points a game this year and had my best all-around season. No one has ever done it. Kobe tried to do it last year and got hurt again. But it was just my determination to prove all the critics wrong. It seemed like I've been doing that most of my career.
You sure have, all the way to the Hall of Fame, all the way to statue status outside of Phillips Arena. March 5th, 2015, that will be unveiled. Rick Hamlet, Dominique Wilkins hanging out at Shula's 347 Grill in Buckhead. More of this Harrah's Cherokee Dinner with Dominique next on Sports Radio 92.9 The Game.
It's Harrah's Cherokee Dinner with Dominique on Sports Radio 92.9 The Game.
Hey, welcome back to Shula's 347 Grill. Yeah! Give it up for the great Dominique Wilkins. He is the main attraction tonight. I know the food is good, but enjoying this conversation with Neek. And, just an amazing career. 15 seasons in the NBA, 12 with the Atlanta Hawks. Of course, Hall of Famer, made the All-Star team 9 times. And that was back in an era where it was tough to make the All-Star team. 1986 scoring champ. His number 21 has been retired by the Hawks. Of course, a statue of Dominique is going to be unveiled March 5th of 2015. He's the Hawks' all-time leading scorer. And I'm impressed, Neek. 26,668 points. That's still 12th all-time. You're 90th all-time in rebounding. I don't know if you knew that. So you're a top 100 rebounder. And get this. 1,378 steals. That's 52nd all time. So people know that you scored. People know that you're a dunker and you're famous for that. But you had a total game, my man.
When you're a great scorer, people kind of overlook your total game because when you're a great athlete, they look at the athleticism. And I ask young kids all the time, if I say to you, would you rather have a great player or a great athlete, what would you choose? And a lot of young guys will say a great athlete, and that's their first mistake. Well, a great athlete can give you a lot of oohs and ahs. A great player is going to beat you every night. Now, if you happen to be both, that's a bonus. So, and that's what we were. But I think a lot of times they get overlooked because they look at the highlights of the game. And I never played with another great player in their prime, and I never asked for one. And so I was one of those guys who always stood on his own 2 feet. If the Hawks was going to win, they were going to win on my back. And that was just my mentality. And I tell people all the time that, I'm not upset I didn't win a championship because if you play as long as I've played and you've had the career that I've had, that career is your ring. That's your gift to the game. And so if I don't look back on saying, what if I've done this or that, because I knew what I brought to the game only very few guys could ever do, especially with not another superstar or two on their team.
I want everybody to just kind of think about what Dominique just said, because you hear from Patrick Ewing, John Stockton, Charles Barkley, a lot of all-time greats that just never could quite get the championship. And Dominique just said his career, his legacy, all of his accomplishments are his ring. I think that's unbelievable perspective, because I think a lot of guys, and you tell me, you talk to former players, guys that you played against, great players, Hall of Famers that don't have a ring, and are they bitter about it? Are they not as at peace with it as you are?
Not at all. I mean, yes, they've tried to play with other teams or other great players to get a ring towards the end of their career, but there's only 1 in a million ever get a chance to play this game, particularly on this level. So, I look at it as a major gift from God that I was able to have this God-given talent and ability to do something that I love, which I probably would have played for free. That's how much I love the game. And that was the difference in that era, that we played from sun up to sun down. We didn't play in the AAU basketball. They didn't have AAU. We played playground basketball, which taught you respect. You look at the AAU game, it teaches you individualism, and they don't teach you the game. And that's why you have a lot of guys who are great athletes, but they're not great basketball players. So it takes them a while to develop that. But we had great mentors growing up that taught us the game. I had a guy when I was growing up that said one thing when I was 12 years old, and he said, I want you over here at the boys club every day. Back then it was the boys club. It wasn't the boys and girls club. That was in the 70s. And he said, I'm going to teach you the game. I'm going to teach you the right way, and you're going to owe me. He said, but not like you think. He said, the only thing I want from you is give to someone else what I'm going to give to you. And he taught me the game of basketball, and he was a playground legend. You may have heard this guy's name. His name was Skip Wise, who played at Clemson, who played in the NBA. But unfortunately for him, he made more money on the street than he did in the NBA, so he didn't have a long career.
So he gave you the advice and told you and all the lessons and the wisdom, and he told you to pass it on. Who did you pass it on to?
Well, I passed it on to kids. I passed it on to my brothers who all play basketball. My brother Joe, who played 14 years in the NBA, his son has played over 10 years in the NBA, and hopefully my sons will have the opportunity to play. I have two. I have one that's going to University of Virginia. That's going to be pretty good. And my youngest son I think is going to be even better if he continues to improve. It just, they have an opportunity to do something that only very few kids get a chance to do. But again, it's the parenting that gives them that opportunity and that direction and guidance. So we have a responsibility to guide those kids in the right way. So that's my gift, is to give back to the kids, and that's why I'm so involved in healthcare now.
That's awesome. You're very involved with diabetes and raising awareness for that, and raising money and resources to help people deal with the affliction and hopefully eventually snuff it out.
Well, it's funny. A year after I retired, I found out I was a diabetic by accident. And I remember going to the doctor, and he said it took 2 hours to come back. I should have known something was wrong because it took too long to come back. And he said, I got good news and bad news. Good news is you're not dying yet. Bad news is you're a diabetic. But you have to have a lifestyle change. And because my father and grandfather both died from diabetes, it kind of became a calling for me. And I just decided I'm not going to let this disease do to me what it did to my father and grandfather. And so in 2.5 months after making that lifestyle change, I lost 32 pounds.
What was the change?
Diet, exercise, medication.
Did you take carbs out of your diet, take sugar out of your diet? Specifically, what did you do?
Sugar, a gallon of water a day, sometimes 2 gallons of water a day, and just making sure that I get physical activity every day, interval workouts and those sort of things. But when you take sugar away from your diet, the body, when it don't have sugar to burn, it burns fat, so you lose weight a lot quicker. And right now, I feel better than I ever felt. When I turned 50, I'm 54 now. I know I don't look it, but, so when you take care of yourself, things happen. But, I did something 15 years ago that actually about 4 years ago, but I couldn't have done that 15 years ago. I went over to Seoul, Korea, and I played against the Korean national team. Actually, I wasn't supposed to play. I was just supposed to wave to the crowd and go sit down. I'm 50 years old. So this big guy elbows me. I said, hold on 1 minute. I reached down, I tied up my shoe. I said, I'm playing. Well, to make a long story short, I scored 32 points in 2.5 quarters.
At 50?
At 50. Only downside is I hurt for 2 weeks.
But it was worth it, wasn't it?
That stopped my competition.
Hanging out with Dominique Wilkins, Rick Camley here at Shula's 347 Grill in Buckhead with a great live audience. Happy to have you guys listening around the airwaves on Sports Radio 92.9 The Game. So we continue this conversation with the legendary Dominique Wilkins next on Sports. Yeah, give it up for Deke here on Sports Radio 92.9 The Game.
A human highlight film. Dominique Wilkins. And we're talking to him live. It's Harrah's Cherokee, Dinner with Dominique on Sports Radio 92.9 The Game.
And here we go again, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, give it up. The human highlight film is here. Dominique Wilkins and Rick Camley here. We're just hanging out, having a great conversation. Our appreciation to Harrah's Cherokee Casino Resort for sponsoring this Shula's 347 Grill in Buckhead, our home away from home on Sports Radio 92.9 The Game. We love you guys, too. Now, coming up in the next hour, we're going to talk about your UGA days. Dominique, you spent 3 years there. I can't wait to talk with Dominique, comparing his era to today's era, with players on and off the court. We're going to take a walk down memory lane playoff style with Steve Holman. We're going to have Dwayne Farrell up here as we look ahead to the 2014-15 Hawks. A lot of fun still to have. What I want to know, when did you first dunk? What age were you? And can you still get way above the rim?
Well, the last part of that question, I can still dunk, but it takes me, a week to warm up. So on Fridays, I'm pretty good.
Now, can you do stuff or can you just dunk?
No. I just go up and, what they call those fingertip dunks.
I got you.
I'm, again, they call me the human highlight film, but I'm just human now. Highlights are gone.
But we still love them. So when did you first dunk? Were you 9? Were you 12? What was the age?
My first dunk was probably 7th, 8th grade. And, again, it's one of those situations where you had the kids out in the playground and you're seeing who can dunk. But actually it was a 10.5-foot goal because in Baltimore where Dwayne and I kind of grew up, none of the goals was regulation, and it had chains on them. So that's my first dunk was 7th, 8th grade.
Fantastic. We've got one more hour coming up, our conversation with local legend Dominique Wilkins, Hall of Famer, and that's coming up from Shula's 347 Grill here in Buckhead. A conversation with Dominique Wilkins. Stay tuned on Sports Radio 92.9 The Game.
Spud driving an alley-oop for Dominique. He catches and jams.
Live from Shula's 347 Grill in Buckhead, it's Harrah's Cherokee, Dinner with Dominique on Sports Radio 92.9 The Game.
We are back here at Shula's 347 Grill in Buckhead. Give it up for the great Dominique Wilkins. I feel a little bit like Jimmy Fallon here, like with a live audience here. This is awesome. This is really, really fun. And, Nick, it's just been a blast hanging out with you. I want to talk to you about your UGA days. You spent 3 years in Athens. You were SEC Player of the Year one of those years. You just put up magnificent numbers. These were his points per game in his 3 years at Georgia. 18.6 as a freshman, then 23.6, then 21.3. Career average in college, again, low minutes and just a different game. 21.6 PPG, 7.5 rebounds. He scored almost 1,700 points, back from 79 to 82. Why did you go to UGA?
That's a long story, but I'll give you the short version. Going to school in North Carolina, back in those days, if you were a great player in the state of North Carolina, you don't leave the ACC. And so I originally signed a letter of intent with North Carolina State, but they was comparing me to be the next David Thompson. I didn't want to be compared to anybody. So Georgia came into play, and it was 5 other high school Americans, and a guy named Roger Banks, who recruited me, came down and basically stole me out from under those of Norm Sloan. And so when I went to Georgia, all hell broke loose. They tried to keep me from going to college, that little small town. They poured paint on my car, busted windows out to my home, and gave me all Fs on my transcript and tried to arrest me for stealing. They tried to do a lot of.
Are you kidding me?
No. If you go look at the Time magazine in 1979, you can see the front cover of The Strange Case of Dominique Wilkins. But so it really kind of made my decision pretty quickly, when all that stuff happened. So when I went to Georgia with Terry Fair and Lamar Hurd and Vern Fleming, all those guys down, it was a great, great team. We just had a couple of injuries, so we got hurt. I got hurt a couple of times my freshman year and sophomore year, but it was a great experience going to the University of Georgia. And people ask me, if you could go back and make a different decision, would you change it? I'm like, Absolutely not. Hugh Durham was one of the greatest coaches I've ever played for. So he taught me how to be, along with my high school coach, taught me how to be a young man first, a player second. And so they developed me. I was ready for pros actually out of high school. But during that time, it was very hard to do because it was very physical. And we came out with the greatest high school class in history. We just got voted a couple years ago the greatest high school senior class across the nation.
In 1979.
In 1979, not one guy went to pros out of high school. And I averaged 29 and 18 rebounds coming out of high school. Didn't think about going to the pros.
It's amazing. Rick Campbell talking with Dominique Wilkins here before a lovely crowd at Shula's 347 Grill in Buckhead. You just mentioned that your high school coach and Hugh Durham, your college coach, taught you to be a human being first and a ball player second. And I talk about this with other people, that there are some ball players who are ball player first, human being second, and they put up a barrier. And they don't let other people in. And I really appreciate the ball players like you, and I'm talking about all-time greats down to the 12th man and down to journeymen who maybe only played 5 years. But talk to people about how important that is to put being a human before being a ball player.
Well, that's why sometimes some great players take longer to become great because they don't learn how to be that young man early in their career. You know, we came out at a different time where you really had no choice. When you came into the league, they didn't give you 3 years to develop. You had to come in and be productive from day one, or you never played. There's a lot of guys who went number one picks who didn't make it in the NBA. So when I went to the NBA, I was prepared because of my high school coach and Hugh Durham. I wanted to stay 4 years at Georgia. I really did. I love Georgia that much. And Hugh Durham said, look, son, I'm not going to be the one to hold you back. You have to go. There's nothing else you can do here. He was wrong about that because they went to the Final Four the next season, so probably should have stayed. But if I'd have stayed, I wouldn't be in Atlanta. So I made the right decision.
Now, it's funny, you know, this is a little out of order with my notes here, but you mentioned, I'm just going to go with the flow here, on the trade. The Utah Jazz, some of you may know this, the Utah Jazz selected Dominique Wilkins back in 1982 with the 3rd overall pick. So that was in June. Now, in September of 1982, it wasn't a draft night deal, okay? That's typically how it is now. You draft a dude, and within either a few hours or that week, the guy's either traded or he's with your team forever. Explain to me the process of you're drafted in June by the Utah Jazz, and they trade you to Atlanta in September for John Drew, and I've never heard of this guy, Freeman Williams.
He was good, and $1 million at that time was a lot of money.
So how is that June to September gap before you being traded, and you hadn't even played a game with the Jazz yet?
Well, first of all, I told him I was going to Utah. I was not going to Utah because they wanted me to play power forward and Adrian Dantley play small forward. I'm like, I'm 205 pounds. I'm not playing power forward.
And especially back in that day, right?
In those days, you didn't, no. I wasn't going to do that. And so I said, look, you guys need to trade me. Actually, I thought I was going to Philadelphia. But Atlanta came out of nowhere because Mike Aaron Sr., who's one of the local owners, Hank Aaron and Ted Turner, they're the one who pulled the trigger on that trade.
You said Hank Aaron.
Hank Aaron.
How did Hank Aaron,
because,
how was he involved
Ted Turner
in that?
owned both teams. And Hank Aaron was involved with the Braves. So Hank Aaron basically told Ted Turner, if you can get this kid, go get him. And he's a special kid. So it was those guys who kind of helped push that trade.
Did you know Hank Aaron before that, or was he admiring you from afar?
I never met him. I guess he had been watching my career at Georgia. But it's also another guy who was kind of very instrumental in that was Pete Marriage. A lot of people don't know that Pete Marriage used to come and work out with me in the summer at the University of Georgia. So he was another guy who helped prepare me for the pros along with Maurice Lucas. I played with pros and worked out with pros on the off season. So when I came to the NBA, it was no big deal.
What was your favorite part of the campus of Athens and the whole UGA experience?
Well, I think the biggest thing is that the University of Georgia owned the town. I mean, Athens basically is the University of Georgia. And, you know, playing on a campus where there's football and basketball has football has always been mainstream as far as college football, but basketball had kind of bust onto the scene. And so it was a nice change because it was known as a football school. But when myself and Terry Fair and Derek Floyd, all of us came there, we quickly changed it into a basketball school too, because all the football players used to come to our games 2 hours before the game, cheering, up on their feet, and so they got us going.
I mean, that was a heyday. You know, winning the championship of college football in 1980. You were there from 79 to 82. Obviously, a lot of success. But these days, UGA is kind of an afterthought in terms of SEC basketball, and they seem to year after year not even really be in the NIT discussion, let alone the NCAA tournament discussion. How does UGA basketball get back to being a top 25 type of program in a perennial NCAA tournament program?
Well, first let me say Coach Fox is a great coach. He's a heck of a coach, and he will get that program back on the right track. He started to get them on the right track last year. So, just getting players to commit to Georgia. If you haven't been down to the University of Georgia and seen the campus and the new athletic center, it's one of the best in the country. So, hopefully all those things will help entice these guys to want to come to Georgia because it's a beautiful campus. It's from an educational standpoint, it's not too many better. So I had a wonderful time there, and I never would change decision I made. So I enjoyed my time there.
Hey, we've got Mike here in the crowd from Sports Radio 92.9 The Game, my main man, Mike. So let's get another question from our audience. And when you grab the microphone, please say your name and where you're from.
Pamela Salisbury. I'm from Columbus, Georgia. I live here in Atlanta now. Hi, Dominique. What NBA player today reminds you of yourself?
Good question.
That's a great question. There's a couple guys I think that, similarity, but I don't look at myself as one guy that kind of represents the way I played. I think it's kind of a mixture of guys as far as explosiveness, athleticism like LeBron and Dwayne Wade, kind of a mix there. And you got to look Carmelo the way, he can go off the dribble, shoot the jump shot in traffic and stuff like that. So I think it's a mixture of guys because, again, when you see highlights, mostly you see is dunks. But I've had games where I've scored 40 and had maybe one dunk, and I had games of over 30 I didn't have a dunk. But I had to find creative ways to score. The thing that I tell young people all the time, if you want to become a great player, you take a great player and take one thing that he did great, and you practice that one thing over and over again until it becomes your move, because if you practice 20 different things, you can't perfect one. I took Earl the Pro spin move, made it my move. Bob Love was one of the greatest shooters in the history of the NBA, how he released, how he gets his shots, worked on that. I went away for 2 weeks with Tree Rollins to Homestead, Pennsylvania. We worked on free throw shooting. Went from 68% to 82% and shot it for the rest of my career. So it's good to take little things and work on that little things to make yourself a great player. So I had an arsenal of things to use, so one guy didn't know how to guard me. That's why I've seen a lot of double teams my whole career. But as far as guys who brings that same type of excitement, LeBron is at the top of that list along with Kevin Durant.
Dominique, I'm tripping out. So Tree Rollins, one of the top shot blockers in NBA history, helped you with your free throw shooting? 7-footers aren't supposed to be helping perimeter guys with their free throw shooting.
Well, he's the reason why I went to Homestead. He took me under his wing when I was a rookie, and he said, because he and Dan Roundfield told me, he said, look, Rook, this is my team. If you can't work hard in practice, we can find somebody else to, because, we traded you for a heck of a player. But it was those same two guys a year later said, okay, now it's time for you to lead. This is your team now. So they kind of handed it to me, but they took me under their wing. I remember they used to take me on road trips, and when you were a rookie back in those days, you had to do everything for the veterans. Every game I had to carry the film, the bags, and they used to shoot around, throw the balls in 12 different directions. And they said, if you're not on the bus with the balls, we're leaving you. I never made a bus the whole season. So I tricked them. I left the balls in a cab in New York. They never saw those balls again, so that stopped that. But I had to take care of them. You talk about guys, the hazing and all that stuff. We got hazed, but it was a part of the game. Mm-hmm. I had to pay for every veteran's meal the whole year long. They go and order a whole group of guys order all this food. I had to pay for it.
So when we return here on the Dinner with Dominique from Shula's 347 Grill in Buckhead, I want to go down memory lane, baby. That 3-year stretch from 86 to 88 where you guys were in the second round every year, all those playoff duels with Detroit and Milwaukee and Boston. Can't wait to talk about this with Dominique Wilkins.
Why do you want to bring the Boston thing up?
We're going to have Steve Holman, legendary play-by-play man of the Atlanta Hawks, perhaps unbeknownst to him, come on up here and help us with some of these great playoff memories. Steve Holman, Rick Kamla, and Dominique Wilkins next here on Sports Radio 92.9 The Game. All right, let's give it up for Dominique Wilkins. Also, legendary Hawks play-by-play man Steve Holman up here on stage at Shula's 347 Grill in lovely Buckhead. Rick Camley here as well. It's Dinner with Dominique. We're in our second hour, and it's just been a wonderful conversation. And, Neek, is it safe to say that 86 to 88, first of all, you're playing on that team, exhilarating all of us with your fantastic Hall of Fame play. But, the Hawks came to Atlanta in 1968. Of course, in the late 50s with Bob Pettit, they won a championship in St. Louis. But in the Atlanta history of the Hawks, they haven't made it out of the second round. So given the fact you went 3 straight years to the second round and had great battles and had a lot of success, is that the best 3-year window in Hawks history?
It's one of them. I wouldn't say it's the best, but it's definitely one of them. But you got to really understand that in that era, in that time, and Steve will tell you, the East was the best conference in the league. Everybody was good. Even the teams that were decent teams were good.
Like Milwaukee.
Milwaukee was good. New Jersey was good. New York was good. I mean, we had great teams in the East that,
Detroit was just becoming Detroit.
Yeah. Detroit was just rising to the top. But Boston, Chicago, Philadelphia, that great Philadelphia team with Dr. J and Moses, I mean, it was very hard to get out of the East.
It sure was. And, Steve, let's first start with this, just a softball for you. When you think back, and this may be hard to answer, do you have like one moment that stands out from calling a playoff game that you'll just take to your grave as one standout moment?
Yes, and it's from that 88 series, and it's not Game 7, the one that everybody talks about, the Dominique Larry thing. It's Game 5 of that series, and Nick and I have talked about this before. We got killed in the first 2 games in Boston. Remember that?
Yeah.
Came back, just barely won Game 3, won Game 4 pretty easily back at the Omni. Went up to Boston. Nobody gave us a chance at all in Game 5. And we went out there and won that game. And then it brought Game 6 back home. And that was the night. I've never seen the Omni as crazy as it was for Game 6. Before that game started, somebody snuck a coffin into the Omni, and they were carrying it around and said Casey Jones retirement party on it.
Bad mistake.
And that game started. Nick, you remember that game?
Yeah.
Remember that game started? The opening tip goes to Danny Ainge. He steps over half court and he hit a 3 to start that game number 6. And then Game 6 ended with Dominique supposed to be getting the ball, but Cliff Livingston ended up with it.
I'm still mad with Cliff to this day.
Well, I know you are.
Yeah.
But Game 5.
Should have taken that shot.
The one greatest game of that whole era for me was Game 5 because we went up to Boston and won that game that nobody expected us to win. And I think that was like, the great satisfaction of that. And then, of course, Game 7 was terrific, too.
Unbelievable. Correct me if I'm wrong. You still have the NBA record for most points in a Game 7 of a playoff series, the 47 that you had against Bird in that famous duel.
Yes. Yeah.
NBA record. 47 points in a Game 7. Can I get a round of applause on? Are you kidding me?
You know what is funny thing about Game 7? I remember Bird made a prediction. Atlanta blew their opportunity to win. And it was a major headline. So we go into Boston Gardens, everybody nervous. So I took half the guys out. I said, look, we're going to relax. I said, we're going to be okay. I remember coming out of the locker room to go on the floor to warm out. And I remember turning around. I said, we're going to win this bleak game. I said, if you ain't ready to go to war, you ain't ready to fight, don't come out in the court. I said, whoever guard me tonight going to have a long night. Unfortunately, Bird was telling his teammates the same thing in the other locker room. So it kind of set up for that Game 7. But I think it was Kevin Willis who really got Larry Bird going, because I remember we was running down the court, and he reaches across me and put his finger in Larry's chest. And he said, don't let this son of a gun score any more tonight. And I looked at Kevin like, what are you doing? And the fourth quarter, Larry went crazy. Had 26 in that fourth quarter. So it came down who's going to make the last shot. It was just Bird and Neek just going at it. And that's one of the greatest games I've ever been a part of.
He had 26 in the fourth quarter?
In the fourth quarter. I don't remember. I ended up with, like I said, ridiculous. 47 in the game. It was ridiculous. He had 12 points going into that fourth quarter, ended up with 34.
You mentioned, too, Rick, that 88, that famous series. A lot of things changed after 88. Remember, there was a decision made that we wanted to score more. We ended up getting rid of Tree, and also Reggie Theus came in.
And Moses Malone.
And Moses came in for Tree, and it was to change everything and be able to advance past, but it didn't work. And I still think if we had left that team alone, that next year would have been the year, I think. What do you think about that?
Well, I think the year we could have won it, I hate to bring this up.
Well, I know exactly what he's going to say, Rick. You know what he's going to say?
I think the year I got traded, we had a chance to win that.
We had the best record. We had the best record in the East the night he got traded.
It's the truth. But, again, I have to give Stan credit for one thing, though. But he always said, when I retire, I will always have a position here in Atlanta. And he held to his promise. So I got to give him credit for that, even though I still mad at him that he made the trade and year we would have won, I thought. But, hey,
I think a lot of us thought that.
So you're talking about Stan Kasten.
Yes.
Of course, a long time. I mean, he's one of the top executives in all of sports over the last 20, 30 years. Now he's part of the L.A. Dodgers ownership group.
Yes.
So are you cheering against Yasiel Puig and the Dodgers at this point many years later because of that?
Oh, no question about it. Yeah.
We talked earlier in the show about the dog, that big old barking dog that's in Dominique.
We hold grudges.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Now, so what he started in February of 1994, the great Dominique Wilkins traded to the Los Angeles Clippers, who were a train wreck year after year back in that day, with a first-round pick. Neek in a first-round pick for Danny Manning. And you think about that now, and Manning, of course, won that championship in '88 with with Kansas, and he was obviously a really good NBA player, but injuries and that kind of thing. Man, you're in the Hall of Fame, man.
Worst trade in history. But
it's the worst trade in Atlanta history.
Worst trade in history.
Did it create a curse?
Worst trade in history.
Neek and Steve, did it create a curse?
Well,
no,
I mean,
I don't
not a
think
curse,
that, no.
but I will say it was the worst trade in not just in Hawks history, in Atlanta sports history. It was the worst trade. I mean, when you think of Atlanta, who do you think of? You think of Hank Aaron and Dominique. Those are the two names you think of.
Deion Sanders maybe as well?
I was at the top of my game.
Well, Deion not in the same with Hank and Neek. I mean, these are the two, these are the two statues.
That's just me working with Jamie Dukes 10 to 2 Monday through Friday. Just got that Deion thing going on. Y'all know what's up.
Yeah, well, Jamie thinks he should have a statue too, but that's
I'm going to tell him you said that.
I'm not getting in that conversation.
No. But you know what, Rick, though, before I go, I just a couple of things that Neek did after he got hurt with that Achilles when people thought he was finished. He came back. He became a great three-point shooter after that. He also, as he mentioned, free throw shooting. And there was a record that Dominique held for many, many years, almost 20 years, until I think it was either last year or the year before, of 26 for 26 in a game from the free throw line. And that record held up for almost 20 years.
Well, it's still a regular season record.
Right. It was a playoff
Derek
game.
Nowinski holds the playoff record.
So, I mean, and he's not known, or people don't think of him about that. And they also don't realize that when he retired, he was the 7th leading scorer in the history of the NBA. Only 6 other people had more points than he did when he retired, and he was not named to that 50 greatest player team, which to me is one of the greatest injustices that ever took place. And here's the argument that I always tell people about that, and you go along with this. James Worthy, who's on that team, right? Let's say you took James Worthy, put him on the Hawks, right? Took Dominique and put him on the Lakers at the same time. Do you think James Worthy could have carried the Atlanta Hawks the way this guy did for all those years and got us to where we were? So there's the greatest argument for Dominique being in the top 50 that there is.
Well, I think the top 50, the reason why it didn't happen, because, I was playing in Boston at that time, and I just vowed never to go back to Boston. I gave back 2 years of my contract, and 4 of those writers voted for the 50 greatest, so maybe that was a way of paying me back. But, the thing that really that I'm proud of is that Larry Bird, Magic, Dr. J, Jordan, all of them said, hey, without this guy on, it's not a real 50 greatest. That's for me, it doesn't matter what they write down. What my peers think, that's what's important to me.
And one of the greatest things that's happened since they all retired is, Larry Bird was not a fan of his when they played. He didn't like his game. Basketball snobs like Bob Ryan in Boston and those guys. Mm-hmm. So Larry Bird kind of picked up on that. He didn't like Dominique's game. Now, years later, here we are, Dominique and Larry
I didn't like his either.
No, but remember the night we all met before a game when the Pacers came into town. And Larry appreciates Dominique now so much and realizes, what Dominique was more than, like you said, no, dunking. You don't score 26,000 dunking. I mean, this guy carried this team on his back for all these years, and he's the greatest Atlanta Hawk of all time, no question about it.
Thank you.
And he's going to have a statue on March 5th, 2015 to prove it. He didn't need it, but hey, it's nice. It's going to feel good for you in March of this upcoming year. And we are coming back. Dominique's former teammate, Dwayne Farrell, currently with the Hawks as well, is going to join us up here on stage. Steve, thank you very much. We appreciate your time. So, Dwayne Farrell, Rick Hamlet, Dominique Wilkins, chopping up the old days and looking ahead to the 2014-15 Hawks as well. Next on Sports Radio 92.9 The Game. And we welcome you back here to Shula's 347 Grill in Buckhead. Couple segments left with Dominique Wilkins, the legendary local icon, the human highlight film. And we've got his former teammate of 6 years, Dwayne Farrell, who just today received a new title. And it's, do you guys have 5 minutes? Here's his new title. Director of Player Development and Manager of Basketball Programs and Alumni Relations. Dwayne, if you have a family, you better kiss him goodbye for a little while.
I want to know if he got a card that says that. That's a lot.
It won't fit on the card. No way that fits on the card. But I'm real appreciative of the promotion. I've been working with David Lee and Andrea Carter, and I'm going to be doing some special things in the community, especially with our alumni. We want to re-engage them, get them back involved with the organization, tell their story, tell the history about what they have done for the organization, and also get them involved with some of the players that are playing right now, the present players. And we like to bring them both together, get them out in the community, and just be positive about everything that's going forward with the Atlanta Hawks from this day forward.
And we're really excited. Mike Conti, the Sports Flash guy that you hear in the mornings, just a tremendous journalist, is going to be hosting 92.9 The Game's pre-half and post coverage of the Hawks with Dwayne Farrell. So we're looking forward to that. I've worked with you here on the radio station, over at NBA TV. Very, very talented guy, well-spoken, knows hoops, obviously. So we're looking forward to having you a part of that. Now, Dwayne, earlier in this dinner with Dominique, as we just honor and share and spend some time with one of the greatest players ever to play the game, I wouldn't say he was taking shots at you, but he was telling it like it was, going back to the day. Do you have something to bring back to Dominique?
Well, he lucky I ain't talking about that sweater he had on when he was a rookie.
Oh, man, please. You going to bring that story up?
Was it a Cosby
Go ahead,
sweater?
Tell him about the story.
You want me to tell you?
Yeah,
what kind of sweater was it?
Well, it was one of those. Actually, it was a vest, a red vest with tight pants on. I thought they were sweatpants, but they was actually jeans. And the vest was so tight, it looked like his little brother's vest. When he got on the bus, I said, look at this brother here. I said, I tell you what, after the game, you're going to go to my house, I'm going to give you some clothes. You can't wear that.
That is true.
Was that one and done, Dwayne?
No.
Was that outfit one and done?
It was one and done. He killed me. The entire bus started laughing at me about this. And as I'm walking down, I'm looking at everybody. They touching me and pulling on my clothes. He said, come on, young fella, come over to my house. I'm going to give you some clothes. So I went over to his house. He went in his closet, started taking out clothes. It still had the tags on it. I mean, it was unbelievable how he opened up to me. But I'll tell you one thing. He also gave me a leather coat that had suede on it. And, I mean, it went all the way down to the floor. I said, what am I going to do with this? It felt like Darth Vader. I said, I can't wear this.
And let me guess. Dominique's comeback was, look good. Right?
Trying to dress the young fella.
He was trying to get rid of some things also. He was trying to get rid of a few things that were dated.
Hey, Dominique, how did Dwayne Farrell help your career?
Oh, man, in ways that you wouldn't believe, because when I shouldn't have told him this, but – I said to him, hey, you got to make me work in practice. You got to go at me. You're going to stay on this team, and you're going to make a career out of this. You got to make me work hard. And I think what he did is help me focus when game time came, because the way he beat me up in practice, the game was easy. I couldn't wait to play the game because we used to call him Jim Kelly, because all he do is karate chop you the whole practice. So he really helped me prepare for the game. And this is a true story. I used to actually tell him, Dwayne, he's kind of getting on my nerves a little bit. I need you to go in and beat him up a little bit, tenderize him a little bit. And I said, I promise you, by the end of the game, he ain't going to want to play no more. And that's what he would do. And he made a long career out of being that tough guy to come in. We never lost anything when he came in the game. He maintained what we was trying to do.
Rick Hamlet, Dominique Wilkins, Dwayne Farrell here, and a great crowd on hand at Shula's 347 Grill. This is our conversation with Dominique Wilkins, brought to you by Harrah's Cherokee Casino Resort, and right here at Shula's 347 Grill. We really appreciate all the managers and all the servers here, just doing a great job, taking great care of all of us. Now, let's talk about the 2014-15 Atlanta Hawks, and before we do, let's rewind to last year. Right around Christmas, before Al Horford goes down with the torn pec, our Hawks are third in the East. well above 500. And it was, at the time, I think there were only 3 teams above 500 in the East at that particular time. But is that something that us Hawks fans should hang our hat on, that, yep, we can get right back to that third status? Because there's kind of a big two right now with Cleveland and Chicago. So is that the goal, to get back to that third spot and then try to move up from there?
You know, if you look at our team last year, when Al Horford went in, we were playing great, and everybody kind of rid us off. They wrote us off, saying the Hawks, no way they're going to make the playoff. But I thought Coach Bud did an excellent job of re-rallying the troops and said, look, guys, we have a chance to do something here and shock the teams in the East. We just have to stay together, keep playing, play up-tempo basketball. And Jeff Teague, who I thought had a great year last year, was the kind of the general to that, and got into playoffs and really should have beat the Indiana Pacers. We just ran out a little gas there, but we had a chance to do something very special. But getting to the playoffs after your best player go down was pretty amazing.
Yeah, you know, and you think about it, after that loss of having Al out for the rest of the season and the way we finished up the season, the players, they felt it. You know, I've been around all summer with the organization. Every single player was in the gym throughout the summer at some point in time, 2-3 weeks, coming in thinking about that last season. They thought because we lost Al, we should have been able to win a few more games. We should have won the postseason game against the Pacers. So they all feel it, and they've been in the gym every single day working on some of their new moves, some of their skills and things like that. So I'm expecting a lot from them this year.
Man, you know what this team really – the great thing about this team is that they create matchup problems for just about any team in the East because of the shooting ability we have in Kyle Korver. Now Cephalosha has come over now, DeMario Carroll. All these guys now, even our bigs, shoot the ball from the perimeter. So it creates matchup problems with bigger teams. That's why Indiana had such a problem with us.
Well, the Atlanta Hawks are one of the deepest teams up front in the entire NBA, going 3 deep at center, going 3 deep at power forward. It's going to be fun to watch, and they're going to be better able, if injuries strike again, and we hope that they don't, but they're going to be that much better able to withstand that and overcome it. Now, talk to me about the new additions, specifically Thabo Cephalosha and Kent Bazemore. Dwayne, well, Nick, you first. How much better do they make the Hawks?
Well, defensively, extremely better, because Cephalosha, who started 5 years straight for a championship-style team in Oklahoma, great defender, long arms, cover a lot of ground. So defensively, we get better. Bazemore is one of those live wires, a lot of energy, can score the basketball, another guy who can defend if you need him to get out in the perimeter. So I'm looking for great things from this team. I
agree with Dominique. When you have a Ken Bazemore, who's kind of wiry like a Jamal Crawford, able to score in various ways, and then you have Adrian Payne, who can stretch the floor as a 4 and a 5, and he's very athletic, go up and contest all types of shots. And then Cephalosha, you know what he's done over the past couple years with OKC. He has very long arms, a 7'2" wingspan, able to guard 1, 2, 3, and 4, and be able to knock down the three-point shot. So I'm expecting defensively for us to get better in that particular area. But I think overall, with the type of offense that we have and these guys, the basketball IQ that they have, we'll be a very successful team this year.
My want with this team is a long-term extension for Paul Millsap. Can we get that? Yeah. All right. Yes. Dwayne Farrell, we really appreciate it. Congratulations on your new title of Director of Player Development and Manager of Basketball Programs and Alumni Relations. Good luck fitting that on a business card. Really, I love it. Dwayne, thank you, man. Enjoy the rest of this night.
David, for real.
We're back to wrap it up with Dominique Wilkins here at Shula's 347 Grill in Buckhead on Sports Radio 92.9 The Game.
Let's go back live to Shula's. It's Harrah's Cherokee Dinner with Dominique on Sports Radio 92.9 The Game.
Well, we're back here at Shula's 347 Grill in Buckhead, and this has been one of the fastest 2 hours of my broadcast career. Seriously, it feels like 2 minutes ago we started this romp down memory lane with the great Dominique Wilkins. Nick, it's just been a pleasure to be out here with you, my man. We've got about a minute left, and I want you to talk about something that's near and dear to your heart, and that's your endeavor with diabetes. And tell the people, like, you're at a political level with this cause as well.
Well, I never thought I would be into politics, but when I got involved with diabetes, it was just about awareness, really educating people on having healthy options to manage this disease through diet, exercise, and medication. But it became a lot more. I do a lot on Capitol Hill, a lot of lobbying work, a lot of philanthropy work, and really keeping provisions in place for diabetes in the new health care bill, and we've raised over $150 million in doing so. So just a couple of years ago, I was legislated as the diabetes ambassador for the state of Georgia, which lets me know the work that we've been doing has paid off, but more importantly, I've been recognized as that person to kind of carry the torch for diabetes around this country. And over the last 7 years, I've probably been in front of over 900,000 people as far as educating them on diabetes. So that's a very important part of my life.
What would you say to people who are out of the loop but perhaps at risk for diabetes?
The thing that I would tell people is the first thing, your first line of defense is getting screened. Everybody in here should be screened because everybody has at least one person that they know or someone in their family who has diabetes, either type 1 or type 2 diabetes. And a lot of times people walking around with diabetes don't even know it, and it's a silent killer just like hypertension. So I would encourage you, if you're dealing with any type of issues with diabetes as far as dry mouth and blurred vision and frequent urination and stuff like that, that you need to go get screened because this is a serious disease and it's no joke.
I also know that you're proud about your son going to play for Virginia. And the Cavaliers obviously were one of the top teams in the tournament last year, and they got that much better with your son.
Oh, they're going to be pretty good, and I think he fits in very well with that team, can play a couple of positions. He's 6'8.5", 6'9". He's gotten bigger since he went to school, so I think he's going to be a great addition to that team.
Dominique, it's been a pleasure, my friend.
Thank you. Pleasure mine, brother.
Dominique Wilkins, legendary Atlanta icon and Hall of Famer, has just dazzled this crowd at Shula's 347 Grill in Buckhead. We want to thank all of you beautiful people for coming out, all the great people with Shula's here in Buckhead that treated us great, and we look forward to more events like this in the future. Thanks to our engineer, our producers, the Hawks for being here as well. We love you all. Thank you for joining us.
And thank you,
dinner
Harris. We appreciate
Dominique.
you guys.
Yes, and Harris, Cherokee Casino Resort as well. We love you all. We will see you in a conversation very, very soon.
Sports Radio 92.9 The Game. Get in the game. On Twitter at 929 The Game.
On Facebook /929 The Game.
On YouTube /929 The Game.
On your phone, the free Audio Roadshow app.
The website 929thegame.com.
Watch the game. Watch 929thegame.com.
And listen at 929thegame.com.
Sports Radio 92.9 The Game.